Hello, believers, non-believers, and everyone in between. You're listening to Paranormal Stories with Sapphire, a podcast collaboration between Grand Rapids Public Library and me, Sapphire Sandalo, from Stories with Sapphire, Something Scary, and Paranormal Caught On Camera. Every Saturday in October at 7:30 p.m., I will be sharing an original spooky story. Stick around until the end to learn how you can share your story for a chance to be featured on the last episode and win a $25 gift card. Now get cozy and open your minds because it's story time. The Painting, a true story from Mark Allen Miller. Sometimes the scariest stories aren't terrifying because of their gruesomeness or their provocative imagery. No, the scariest stories are the ones that show us just how much of the world we do not understand and the inhuman creatures that exist just beyond our visual capabilities. This is one of those stories, and completely true. My friend Mark Allen Miller used to work for famed horror writer and artist Clive Barker. Clive is probably best known for his movie Hellraiser. About 11 years ago, Mark had just been hired at Clive's company, where they worked out of his sprawling 3-story mansion in Los Angeles. His home was the inspiration for numerous books and paintings, including his novel, Cold Heart Canyon. The book was based on Clive's experiences, living in this house which he believed was charged with an unexplainable, potent energy. Mark was unaware of this energy before he joined the company, but he very quickly learned about it firsthand. Mark was spending 3 weeks alone in the mansion while Clive was in Europe on a book tour. There was an enormous den with a giant table, the size of a yacht. Clive tasked Mark with hiring and managing the workers who would sand and refurbish this table while he was gone. One afternoon, Mark was sitting at his desk in another room answering emails. The painter came in to tell him that they were done so that he could come take a look at the work. When Mark entered the den, he saw the entire room had been covered in tarp, which was then covered in a layer of sawdust. Everything was covered, the floor, lamps, dressers. It was wall-to-wall sawdust. Mark entered the room and examined the table, noticing that he's leaving footprints in the dust as he makes his way through the massive room. The table looked absolutely fantastic, and Mark knew that Clive would be pleased with the work. As Mark was about to turn to leave, something caught his eye. Now, because this room was so large, there were touch lamps placed throughout the room so you could reach out and touch a lamp near you. It was the middle of the day, so none of the lamps were on. But far across the other side of the room, Mark saw one of the touch lamps turn on. His first thought was, it's an old house and the wiring is a little bit funky. Perhaps a cord was jostled while the workers were in here. But Mark had to know for sure. So he crossed the room and looked at the lamp. In the sawdust were 2 fingerprint depressions in the touch lamp base. There were no footprints leading to or away from the lamp. Mark had no idea how that was possible or who those prints could have belonged to until his friend came to work for the company with him. Mark's friend Bill had just moved from the UK. He was staying at the mansion until he got a place of his own. The only other person staying at the mansion at the time was the groundskeeper. He was a tall, very slender man with no hair. He had a very distinct silhouette, a very easily recognizable appearance. So on Bill's first night in the house, he picked a room with a couch to sleep on, as there were no bedrooms. In this room were large shipping crates. They contained sealed and packed paintings from Clive's most recent art show. They had just received the paintings and hadn't had time to unpack them. So as night fell, Mark left for home and Bill was getting ready for bed. In the middle of the night, Bill was awakened by a noise. When someone enters this house, it's a very identifiable sequence of sounds. The door clicks, the alarm goes off, and the heavy oak door slams shut, echoing in the halls. This was enough to wake Bill up. He sat up on the couch and listened carefully as the footsteps in the hallway got closer, eventually stopping in the doorway of the room. In the moonlight, Bill could make out the silhouette of a tall, slender, bald man. It was just the groundskeeper. "Hey, everything okay? Can I help you?" Bill called out into the darkness. Silence. Bill flipped the light on, revealing a figure with a blank slate for a face and facial features crawling over its head like bugs. Bill had a hard time processing what he was seeing. This was not human. What was it? Just as Bill stood up, the figure disappeared. Bill frantically began texting Mark about what just happened. "There was a man," Bill wrote. "But it wasn't a man. He had no face. His eyes, his nose, his mouth, they had legs, and they were moving around his head. Am I going crazy?" Mark paused at this description. "Do me a favor," Mark replied. "See the boxes in that room? I want you to go over to them and open them up and tell me what you see." So Bill did just that. He opened a crate and pulled out one of the paintings. He peeled back the wrapping and froze. He was holding a painting that depicted exactly what he saw. Bill did not go to sleep the rest of the night. He kept himself awake on his laptop until Mark returned to the mansion the next morning. When Clive had returned to Los Angeles a few days later, they told him about what happened, and Clive was not surprised in the least. He too had seen this hellish figure in the house, and the figure had forced Clive to paint it. What was that thing? And why did it demand to be visually reproduced? Does that somehow give it power? Whatever it is, it's still lurking within the walls of that mansion. Thank you for listening. To share your paranormal experience or scary story, visit grpl.org/paranormal-stories. Your story might be featured in the final episode, and you'll receive a $25 gift card. Visit the website for more details. Thank you to the Grand Rapids Public Library and librarians. Visit grpl.org to learn more about how this 21st century library inspires opportunity, connection, and innovation. If you enjoyed this story, you might also enjoy my podcast, Stories with Sapphire, available wherever you listen to your favorite shows. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter @AwkwardSapphire. Salamat and good night.